This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. People often envy others for what they have or how they look, for their friends, for their job, or for their life in general. They imagine others to be happier and more fulfilled than they are. The mind naturally does this. It imagines a more perfect life than it is, and it imagines that others actually have the life it imagines, without realizing that these are just imaginations. People believe these illusions. These illusions are their reality. My point is that no one's life is like anyone's imaginations. This life on this dimension is one of duality. If someone is beautiful, for instance, that will not last, and while that beauty lasts, it has both pros and cons. Anything you can name has both advantages and disadvantages. That's duality. That's the truth. Nothing comes with just advantages, except in your imagination. It's important to see this because it's easy to be fooled by your dreams and desires into thinking, "I'll be happy when," or "If only I had that, I'd be happy." These are examples of the lies told to you by the voice in your head. All the lies that make up the illusion seem really true, while they're not. That is the nature of an illusion. Something seems true or real, while it's not. The mind spins an illusory reality and then lives as if that were true. It really seems true that you could have the life of your dreams. It really seems like the man or woman of your dreams is out there. I'm not saying you can't have a wonderful life or a wonderful partner. I'm just saying that that life and that partner won't match your imagination. In real life, there are ups and downs, joys and difficulties, things you like and don't like about whatever life or whatever partner you have. Imaginations include only one side of the story. That's why they're a lie, an illusion. The problem with believing lies is that it leads to suffering. If you believe that life or someone should be a certain way, then whenever that isn't the case, you'll be unhappy and rail at life or be angry at others. This is not how things are supposed to go. Of course, you know this. You know life and people aren't perfect, but do you really? A part of you, the more primitive self, the ego, does not know this, and it's holding out for perfection, for something and someone that fits its ideas and dreams. What gets upset when life or others don't comply is the ego. It is not living in reality, but in an imaginary reality, where it believes it should be able to get anything it wants. Your rational side knows and sees the truth about life, but your irrational side, the ego, doesn't want to see the truth and pretends otherwise. This irrational side of you has a voice, and that is the voice in your head, and the voice in other people's heads too. The rational side of you might also have some say inside your head, as most of you have learned to be rational and to counter the irrational side of yourself to some extent, which is certainly helpful. And yet the voice in your head is, for the most part, the voice of the primitive ego. If you aren't aware of this and of the ego's illusions and misperceptions, you're likely to feel disappointed a lot, which is how most people do feel. Your ego is not very happy with life. Disappointment is a sign that you had an imagination and expectation about something or someone that wasn't fulfilled. Disappointment is so normal, so common, and yet, if you never believed that something or someone would or should be a certain way, you would never be disappointed. To the extent that you believe your imaginations and are attached to having things be a certain way, you'll feel disappointed. So much of the sadness, anger, blame, and resentment that people feel stems from this tendency to believe that life should be or will be a certain way. People really believe this lie. They don't think to ask, why should it? Who says? They don't realize it's their ego that says so, when in truth, life is what it is, and it will be what it will be, regardless of how the ego feels about it. People don't question the source of their feelings. They assume that their feelings are life's fault or the fault of someone who didn't live up to their imaginations, their expectations. But life and other people are not here to live up to your imaginations. When put this way, it's easy enough to see how egocentric it is to think that your imaginations have some kind of sway over life, or should. To think so is irrational, but that is how the ego is. The ego is irrational. Until these irrational thoughts or lies are examined, they will continue to mislead people and make them unhappy. And unfortunately, unhappy people hurt and blame others for their unhappiness. Feelings such as sadness, anger, blame, and resentment come from believing lies. If you don't see this, then you'll continue to have such feelings. To become free of them, you have to examine the underlying beliefs that fuel them. As long as you blame others or life for such feelings, you'll never be free of them. They are your feelings. You created them, however unconsciously. Not others, not life. This is true of all feelings, at least the ones you suffer over. People aren't responsible for the thoughts that run through their mind, since they didn't put them there, and they have no control over them. Thoughts come into your mind and everyone else's from the same place, the subconscious, where the egoic programming and other conditioning is stored. Then, if those thoughts go unexamined and believed, as they do for most people, they generate feelings. In a sense, people aren't responsible for their feelings either, since most people aren't consciously aware of how their thoughts turn into feelings. They are unconscious of the programming running them, and therefore at the mercy of it. Once you gain some awareness of your thoughts and realize that they create your feelings, you can put an end to this unconscious process. You can put an end to being at the mercy of your negative emotions. Notice I didn't say you would eliminate all emotions, but that you would no longer be controlled by them. This freedom from emotions is a huge advancement in one's evolution and has enormous implications for humanity as a whole. Through a combination of understanding and evolution, human beings will eventually stop hating and hurting each other. War will stop. Conflicts will be settled peacefully. So how is this accomplished? The understanding needed to accomplish that is right here. I've just given it to you. Become aware of your thoughts. Then, see that they are causing you to believe things about yourself, others, and life that aren't true. Then, see that these untruths are making you feel angry, afraid, sad, and hateful. Then, see that these emotions are the cause of all wars, conflicts, suffering, and pain. If you want to end war, conflict, suffering, and pain, and who doesn't, then see the falseness in the thoughts behind your negative emotions. Learn to see life as it truly is, not as the illusion paints it. Above all, learn to accept life as it is, and learn to accept others as they are, meaning let them be as they are. Live and let live. This is the way to peace and happiness for all. This is the only hope for humanity, the only possible direction now. The war and hatred must stop, and it stops as each person ends the pain within themselves by seeing the truth about the voice in their head and by mastering their emotions. So I will say a little more about how this is done, since this is so important. First, awareness of one's thoughts is developed in meditation. Meditation is the speediest way to develop this ability. Like all abilities, being aware of your thoughts is learned by practicing it, not just reading about it. Most people have never even considered examining their thoughts, and without a practice like meditation, most aren't able to do that, at least not consistently. However, it isn't enough to be aware of your thoughts if you don't also question their validity. Being good at witnessing your thoughts isn't enough to become free of the emotions fueled by them. Unless you see that your thoughts are based on false assumptions about life, you won't be free of the emotions caused by those false assumptions. Inquiry is the practice of questioning your thoughts. Is that always true? Is the basic question. Something that is true always, throughout time. If something is not always true, then it's a partial truth, which is essentially a lie. Your mind and everybody else's is full of these half-truths, opinions, assumptions, and generalizations, which are taken as true. Through inquiry, you discover that very few of the thoughts that run through your mind can withstand this test. I have said a great deal about these lies in other books, so I will refer you to them, particularly A Heroic Life. For now, I just want to say that it's possible to be free of emotional reactivity. What I mean by this is that anger, for instance, might still arise, but you won't react to it. You won't act on it or give voice to it, at least not much or for long. That's the best that can be expected of you as a human being. It's not realistic to think that an emotion will never run through you again once you're more advanced spiritually. Awakening or enlightenment is not devoid of emotion, but there's a different relationship to your emotions. As you evolve, it's what you do about your emotions that can and does change. Your relationship with your emotions changes. You may have an emotion, but it doesn't have you. This is where you and humanity are headed, toward a new relationship to your emotions. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment to awakening out of the ego. I am with you always.